just wanted to invite a absolute rock star who has been a very dear friend of mine, the daughter of Mr. Sigurd Magnusson, who is a battering ram and likes to get things done. Can I have a witness from charge now? Yeah. So without further ado, Ella, I'm so honored to have you here. And if you just want to close us off by telling us a little bit about how you're feeling about what's going on.
Sea level rise, mass extinctions, temperature extremes. We all know we're in the middle of a climate crisis. According to the IPCC reports, if we halved our global emissions by 2030, we'll only have a 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees Celsius. This isn't good enough. New Zealanders like to think of our country as ecologically sustainable and environmentally friendly. And there are many incredible things people are doing. My dad, along with Steve and Dee West, have helped with the installation of over 100 electric car chargers. Some councils and companies are electrifying their fleets, and if our government has courage, they'll soon begin subsidising the cost of electric cars to encourage uptake. And of course, there are all of you, too. Our zero carbon bill is currently passing through government, a bill started by youth to safeguard their futures. But despite these efforts and advances in sustainability, youth see that New Zealand still needs to work harder. Individuals can only do so much. It is time for business to be braver and fight for our planet. Our zero carbon bill is a positive step, but it is not strong enough. It does not even acknowledge the IPCC recommendation that we must urgently halve our emissions by 2030, and has no penalties for reaching its own goal of net zero by 2050. When discovering the need to reduce methane, the zero carbon bill is ambiguous in its goals, which allows our politicians to achieve a minimum 24% reduction since 2017 levels by 2050, compared to the IPCC's recommended 35% reduction by 2050 since 2010 levels. This isn't good enough. We can do better. As agriculture is our biggest emitter, our zero carbon bill should state this and be addressing the issue and supporting farmers to do the right thing by providing just transitions to more sustainable jobs and other jobs. Yet, our government just announced that farmers won't have to start reducing emissions for another 5 years. And even then, they'll only have to pay for 5% of their emissions, with no obligations to reduce them. Our government has tried to make themselves look good, calling this a wild first with farmers, but the reality is just another case of politicians too afraid to do what is right. Although we're investing more in electric vehicles, we are continuing to burn more fossil fuels than ever before. Our emissions are still going up. Most people don't understand how important it is to rid themselves of their fuel car and don't connect driving their car to climate change. Most New Zealanders last year wanted a plastic bag ban, but if we banned the electric car next year, there would be outrage. Hopefully next year, our government will introduce an $8,000 discount of EVs. But yet, we have one side of government playing tricks and even outright lying to try and stop this from happening. Even if we manage to subsidise electric cars, that isn't enough. And as many of you know, we need utes, trucks, boats and planes that are electric, not just small cars. Our country is yet to declare an emergency, and many cities and regions refuse to acknowledge the crisis either. Even those who have declared emergencies are not doing enough. If we emit no more than just under 350 gigatons of carbon dioxide from today, we'll still only have a 67% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees of Celsius and risking the catastrophic damage this would bring. The IPCC reports not only state this, they tell us that at our current rate, this emissions budget will be used up by the year 2028, in 8 years' time. We cannot let this happen. New Zealand must halve its emissions by 2028 and reach carbon neutral by 2030. if not earlier. We must do this to ensure that temperatures rise no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial levels. We're already over 1 degree of warming. But why is this so important? Pacific Islands are going underwater and have been for years. People are using their cultures and homes and struggling with the increasingly severe storms. As their neighbours, it's New Zealand's responsibility to help them and to stop the crisis getting much worse. Our futures and the futures of generations yet to come are at risk. Our homes, culture, and maybe even lives are in jeopardy. At 1.5 degrees Celsius, our coral populations will be slashed. If we exceed this, they and many other species will be gone completely. In 2050, many of us youth will be in the middle of our lives and our careers, unless nothing has been done. We need everything to be done so that we can have a future. So many species are dying out so fast. So this is also a biodiversity crisis. No one will have a future unless you act. I want a country where I feel safe, where I can trust my leaders to put others' lives above short-term monetary gains, power and greed. I want our incredible country to retain its beauty and biodiversity. Our rivers, oceans, forests, wetlands and glaciers are already feeling the detrimental effects of human greed. We must stop harming them. When Pākehā settlers first came to New Zealand, they took so much from this land. So many forests destroyed, so many swamps drained, and yet we continue as though we've learnt nothing. Indigenous Māori learnt their lesson. At first, they too made mistakes, such as killing off moa, but then they learnt to protect their land, resources and home through values such as kaitiakitanga. When will we learn? We aren't special, we're not different, and yet we have the power to change our fate. I want my country's beauty restored to its full glory. As a child, I want to trust my elders' decisions, but I've learned that a lot of adults don't care about my life. I want free afternoons to hang out with my friends, to have fun. I want to learn as much as I can and try hard in school, but instead, I have to make exceptions, make time for activism, as my education doesn't matter as much as the future of our planet. So I use up my free time trying to save the world. As the eldest of 3 sisters, I'll do anything to ensure my siblings have a brighter future. As a friend, I'll keep fighting so that my peers can have the future that they deserve. The future we deserve and the current state of the crisis has been documented by hundreds of hardworking scientists. We're already locked into at least 1 metre of sea level rise globally, according to IPCC reports. Think for a moment just how much water that is. And this assumes we absolutely slash our emissions. If we do nothing, if we let this crisis become an apocalyptic catastrophe, predicted levels are much higher. IPCC states that if emissions continue as they are, the resulting ice melt could cause many metres of sea level rise. We're experiencing more storms, fires, cold snaps and heat waves than ever. The climate is out of control. As a rangitahi of Aotearoa, I demand that all business people and anyone else in a position of power ask your government to acknowledge the severity of the climate crisis and to act as if our lives depend on it. I demand that you make bolder decisions now to drastically cut your emissions as a business. Everyone in this room must demand that New Zealand and all the world halve its CO2 emissions by 2028 and reach carbon neutral by 2030. We must also begin to reduce our methane emissions now. The fact that New Zealand's government is allowing farmers to delay acting on this is not good enough. We must achieve goals as a planet too. We must cease the extraction and use of fossil fuels. Demand that your government helps justly transition jobs and retrain workers to more sustainable jobs. You must do everything in your power to keep warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. This means fundamental changes in business, transport and farming. Now, we must start these changes now so that before 2030, scientists can actually measure our emissions nearing zero. Science should set our ambitions, not what makes us popular or comfortable. You must act as if our lives depend on it, because they do. I want to feel safe, but my future is being gambled with by people playing God. I want to be able to trust my country, my politicians, my elders, but I'm watching them let popularity get in the way. I want to enjoy what's meant to be the best, most reckless time of my life. Be with my friends in whānau more, have time to study, have time to make mistakes, but I can't. Not only is my future being threatened, but my childhood is being stolen from me. This is not good enough. Stop complaining. Stop worrying about money. Think of us. Promise you'll put the future of our planet above money, greed, and stupidity. The youth movement across the world is growing, with more and more tenacious individuals and groups demanding change and finding their voices. When I first heard Greta, I found her inspiring. She gave me the motivation needed to continue fighting for our planet. Another inspiring individual, Sophie Hanford, started the School Strike for movement in Aotearoa, and at only 18 was voted into Kapiti Coast District Council. And now, other people are calling me inspiring, such as my friend Molly. At age 12, she made a beautiful dress out of recycled materials and won a competition with it. The message is for the earth: waste me not, forget me not. The dress being a forget-me-not flower with a train of rubbish behind it, as we are leaving a trail of rubbish behind us. Over the last 2 years, I've given speeches about climate change, started working with Forest and Bird to help kids reduce waste, joined School Strike for Climate NZ, presented submissions at local council meetings, written letters to politicians and businesses, and helped out at my school's climate change club. Also, every fortnight on Fridays, my school and I run a different event or action at our school to promote climate justice. Somehow, I still manage to get good grades. This is absolutely exhausting, leaving little time for recreation. And I'm only one of many. So many rangitahi, all amazing, hardworking and determined, all exhausted, anxious and frustrated. We're not the generation of the future. Decisions made now affect us now. We are being hurt now, so we are fighting now. We are losing our faith in our leaders. But there is hope. Hope in the people in this room. Hope in the 170,000 people, 3.5% of New Zealand's population, who striked for the climate across New Zealand in September. Hope in the youth who give up their childhoods to fight for a future. We must tell the world, change is coming, whether they like it or not. Thank you.
Ella, that was, I thought I was bossy. I'm nothing on you. That was so appropriate. Today has been about looking at solutions and being, in a way, kinder on ourselves, looking at the positives going forward. But that is the wake-up call that I said at the beginning. That is the call to arms that today is essentially about. And you did it in a way that informed, but also gave real hope in your passion and your drive. If you represent many others of your age across New Zealand, can you imagine when you really get politically active as well and say we're going to change what, be the AOC of New Zealand, be the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you know, say no more of how it's being done. I also would love to see a media that gives you and your cohorts a real voice, a real platform, and it's a dream of mine when I have the millions to set it up. That's what I would love to do, because we need a media that reflects a lot of what we've talked about today and shared, a media that uses that beautiful word, manakitanga, speaks up to the audience and assumes that deep intelligence we saw in Ella's address to us, that deep passion for something much more than the vacuous and the demeaning and the belittling and the mind-numbing. Look at the intelligence in this room, and there are so many of us out there who also want the same. So thank you so much, Ella. That was really inspiring, and yeah, I think I've often thought Morning Report should have a business report followed immediately by an environmental report. And eventually those two should become completely synonymous. So if a business is doing well and its bottom line, its return to shareholders is great, the next question always is, yes, but how's your environmental report doing against that? And if one is up and one is down, then it's not a great business. And that's what we need to do as shareholders. Where you invest your money now, you have that power. When you vote, you have that power. What a wonderful day. I would like now to ask Steve, West, and Dee to come up and just close off formally the inaugural Electrifying Conversations Conference.
Steve, use the mic first.
Who was that? Was that Alan? Was that Alan?
Don't look at me, I had nothing to do with it.
It's true. Come back here. Anyway, we're gonna. Everybody's tired and their brains are full. I have so much love for this room and so much hope that we're actually gonna do what we talked about. We've been to a lot of conferences together. We've been to a lot of conferences around the world, and it's great to have a day like today. But get out there and get your hands dirty and be brave, because the world's on fire. I wasn't supposed to say that, but it's true. And that's probably enough.
Sharing, I'll just, lovely Kaumatua today. Oh, do you have anything else to say, Steve?
Hell no.
About what an amazing woman Dee is organising this?
You guys are putting way too much today.
No, that's lovely. Well, Dee, I want to really congratulate you, well, both of you for starting what you started with ChargeNet, and Dee, your drive and your passion and your care for all of New Zealand beyond your own business to put something back in is extraordinary and inspiring. And I also want to use a wonderful phrase. Can you just pass me that bag from just down there, Steve? It's extraordinary. A girlfriend lent me her car, and she's part Māori, and I turned around yesterday, this is another of those synchronicities, and it says, Karafiua, that's it, karafiua. I've never heard that word, and it means give it everything. So I asked our beautiful Kaumatua what exactly that is that bag right? And he said, yes, the phrase is karafiua ki te motu, and it says throw it out there, throw something out there, and see where it lands. And then he said, oh, beyond that, it means actually let the people of the land know. Isn't that an extraordinary word? Isn't that just wonderful? It's sort of that instruction, and that should be on the back seat of the car I was lent, because mine's in the garage. I found really lovely. ChargeNet is actively inviting all of you to become a part of this whānau now, to become a part of this community, which at its heart is championing the transition of New Zealand to energy independence and carbon divestment. So let the people of the land know what's gone on today. We have networking drinks in the foyer. Keep connecting with each other. Come back next year. And again, gorgeous Bobby gave this blessing. So let's have a blessing, which is about finding that strength within to go and share what you've learned today and make a better world. Mā te atua koto e manaki e tiaki I nawa katoa. Kia ora, everybody. Thank you for today.